What's the scariest thing that happened to you on Halloween? My sister asked me to take her son trick-or-treating last Halloween because she had to work a double shift at the hospital. Her son, Tyler, was 8 and excited about his zombie costume that he'd been planning for months. I figured it would be easy. Walk around the neighborhood for an hour, let him get candy, bring him home. Simple. We started at 6:30 when it was just getting dark. Our neighborhood goes all out for Halloween. Decorations everywhere. Fog machines, the whole thing. Tyler was running ahead, checking out the displays while I followed behind. That's when I noticed the first group. 3 kids, maybe 10 or 11 years old. One dressed as a pirate, one as a witch, one as a vampire. Normal costumes. But they were standing perfectly still on the sidewalk about half a block ahead, just staring in our direction. Not at the houses, not at decorations, at us. Tyler didn't seem to notice them. He ran up to the first house and rang the doorbell. A woman answered, gave him candy, complimented his costume. Everything normal. When we turned around, those 3 kids were gone. We hit 5 more houses over the next 15 minutes. Tyler was having a great time, his pillowcase getting heavier with each stop. Then I saw them again. The same 3 kids. Pirate, witch, vampire. Standing in the exact same position on the next block. Same still posture. Same direct stare. This time I pointed them out to Tyler. He glanced over and shrugged, said maybe they were waiting for their parents. That made sense, I guess. But something about the way they stood bothered me. We kept walking. 2 blocks later, there they were again. Same kids, same formation, different location. I stopped and looked directly at them. They didn't move. Didn't break eye contact. Didn't react at all. Tyler pulled my arm. Come on, Uncle Josh. I want to hit the houses on Maple Street. Those ones always give out full-size bars. We turned onto Maple and I kept checking behind us. The 3 kids were following now. Not close. Maybe 30 feet back. But definitely following. Maintaining that same weird distance. I tried to stay calm for Tyler's sake. Told myself it was just kids being creepy on Halloween. That it was probably a game. But my hands were shaking as I helped Tyler with his pillowcase. On Maple Street, something else started happening. At every 3rd house, the person answering the door would look at Tyler, then look past him at me. Their expressions would change. Some looked confused. Some looked almost scared. One older man stepped out onto his porch and asked Tyler what his mother's name was. Tyler said Katie, and the man's face went white. He handed Tyler a handful of candy and went back inside quickly. I heard him lock the door. I asked Tyler if he knew that man. He said no, but the way he said it felt off, like he was being careful with his answer. We were on our way to the next house when I noticed more kids. Different costumes, but same behavior. Standing still, watching us, following at a distance. I counted 7 now, all spread out in a loose circle around us. Tyler grabbed my hand, which he hadn't done since he was 5. His palm was sweaty. Uncle Josh, we should go home now. But we'd only been out for 40 minutes. His pillowcase wasn't even half full, and he'd been so excited about this. I asked him why. He didn't answer right away. Then said he felt sick, wanted to go home. The kids following us started moving closer. Not running, just walking steadily, tightening the circle. I picked up Tyler and started walking fast back toward my sister's house. He was heavy, but I didn't care. Something was very wrong. My phone buzzed. Text from my sister. Why is Tyler's school calling me? They said he never showed up to the Halloween party this afternoon. Where is he? I stopped walking. Looked down at the kid in my arms. He looked exactly like Tyler. Same face, same costume, same everything. But Tyler was supposed to be at a school party until 6. This kid had been waiting at my sister's house when I arrived at 6:15. The door was unlocked. He was sitting on the porch in full costume. I'd assumed my sister let him out early. Hadn't questioned it. The kid in my arms smiled. But it wasn't Tyler's smile. His teeth looked too sharp. The other children were surrounding us now, standing in a perfect circle. I heard sirens in the distance. The kid whispered, "You should have checked the houses we skipped." And that's when I realized what I'd actually been doing for the past hour. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. The sirens grow louder. Red and blue lights flashing through the fog as police cars screech to a halt in front of my sister's house. The thing that looks like Tyler is still gripping my hand, its smile widening unnaturally. Under the harsh police lights, I can see its skin turning ashen gray, like clay left too long in the sun. "They're too late," it whispers. And I notice its teeth are even sharper now, needle-like points where Tyler's slightly crooked baby teeth should be. We've already taken what we came for. 2 officers approach cautiously, hands hovering near their weapons. "Sir, is everything all right?" one calls out. The circle of children tightens around us, their movements synchronized like they're controlled by a single mind. "This isn't my nephew," I managed to say, my voice shaking. "My sister just texted me. The real Tyler is missing." Not Tyler's grip tightens painfully on my wrist, its fingers elongating, nails digging into my skin. "You should have checked," it repeats, voice deepening into something that doesn't sound human anymore. "The houses we skipped. That's where they all are." The lead officer draws his weapon. "Release him now," he shouts at the creature. Not Tyler's face begins to split along invisible seams, the skin peeling back like wet paper to reveal something pale and glistening underneath. The other children start to change too, their costumes melting into their skin, colors running together like watercolors in rain. I hear one of the officers retching behind me. The other is shouting into his radio for immediate backup. The thing that was pretending to be Tyler tilts its head at an impossible angle, regarding the officers with milky white eyes. Then it turns to the other creatures, and though no words are spoken, I can feel something passing between them, a conversation happening just beyond my perception. Too many witnesses. Kill them? No time. The others are coming. What about the children we've claimed? I don't know how I'm hearing these thoughts, but they echo in my head like they're my own. The creatures are debating our fate, and I realize with horror that they've done this before, many times. More sirens approach in the distance. EMTs rush past us toward one of the houses on the block one we had skipped during our trick-or-treating route. The realization hits me like a physical blow. Those skipped houses weren't random. They were targets. "Josh!" My sister's voice cuts through the chaos. Katie is running toward us, still in her hospital scrubs, face streaked with tears. She stops dead when she sees me standing next to what appears to be her son. "Tyler?" she whispers, looking between the 2 of us in confusion. The not Tyler creature hisses, its partially transformed face contorting with rage. The circle of children, or whatever they really are, breaks formation as more police cars arrive, their lights cutting through the darkness. "They found him," an EMT shouts from down the street. "We've got a child, male, approximately 8 years old, unconscious but breathing." Katie's head whips toward the voice, then back to to the thing, still gripping my wrist. Understanding dawns in her eyes, followed by pure terror. "What are you?" she whispers. The creature releases my wrist suddenly, backing away. The other children are retreating too, melting into the shadows between houses with unnatural speed. Not Tyler's face reforms just enough to look like my nephew again, but the illusion is imperfect now. The skin too gray, the eyes too large. "We'll be back," it says, in a voice that sounds like multiple children speaking in unison. "We always come back for Halloween." Then it's gone, vanishing into the darkness so quickly, I wonder if I imagined the whole thing. But the bruises forming on my wrist confirm it was real. Police officers swarm the area, guns drawn, but the creatures have vanished completely. Katie is already running toward the house where they found Tyler, and I follow, legs shaking so badly I can barely stay upright. The real Tyler is being loaded onto a stretcher, pale and unconscious but alive. He was found in the basement of a neighbor's house 3 doors down, a house whose owners were supposedly out of town for the weekend. The EMTs say he's suffering from mild hypothermia and appears to have been sedated with something. As they load him into the ambulance, reports start coming in from other officers. 6 more children found in various basements throughout the neighborhood, all alive, all in similar condition, all reported missing within the last 3 days. The police search every house on the block but find no trace of the creatures. The only evidence they left behind are strange symbols carved into the doors of the houses, where children were found, symbols that none of the officers recognize. At the hospital, Katie refuses to leave Tyler's side. When he finally wakes up 4 hours later, groggy and confused, she breaks down sobbing with relief. I stand in the doorway, unable to shake the feeling that we're still being watched. "You should have known," Katie says quietly when Tyler falls back asleep. Her voice is flat, accusing. "How could you not know that wasn't my son?" I have no answer. The thing looked exactly like Tyler. Same height, same zombie makeup, same Halloween costume he'd been planning for months. Same voice, same mannerisms. How could I have known? But deep down, I realized there were signs. The way it stood too still sometimes, the slight hesitation before answering questions, the cold touch of its hand. I should have noticed something was wrong. "I'm sorry," I whisper, but Katie just turns away. The police interview me 3 times that night, asking the same questions over and over. Did I notice anything unusual? Did the children say anything specific? Could I identify any of them if shown photographs? I tell them everything, even the parts that sound insane. The telepathic communication, the transformation, the way they vanished into thin air. The officers exchange glances, but write it all down. By morning, the story is everywhere. 7 missing children found in Maple Street neighborhood. Mysterious Halloween kidnappings. Police seeking unidentified suspects. The news reports don't mention the creatures or the transformations. They talk about human traffickers, about organized crime, but I know what I saw. And as I stare at the strange silver mark that's appeared on my wrist where the creature grabbed me, I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. Those houses we skipped, they knew exactly which ones to target, which children to take, and they said they'd be back. Tyler's been home from the hospital for 3 days, and he hasn't slept through the night once. I hear him screaming around 2 a.m., the same terrified shriek that makes my blood run cold every time. Katie rushes to his room before I can even get my legs untangled from the blankets on her couch. "They're watching me," I hear him sob as I stand in the doorway. The cold people are watching through the window. Katie holds him, rocking back and forth while murmuring reassurances that sound hollow even to me. There's nothing at the window but darkness and the reflection of his nightlight, but Tyler won't look that direction. He keeps his face buried in Katie's shoulder, his whole body trembling. "I'll check outside," I say, grabbing the baseball bat. Katie now keeps beside the front door. The November air bites at my skin as I circle the house, scanning the yard for any sign of movement. There's nothing. No footprints in the frost-covered grass, no disturbed bushes, no strange figures lurking in shadows. But I can't shake the feeling of being watched, like something just beyond my peripheral vision is tracking my movements. When I come back inside, Katie's made hot chocolate. Tyler's wrapped in his dinosaur blanket at the kitchen table, eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "Nothing out there," I tell them, but the words feel like a lie even as they leave my mouth. "The police called today," Katie says quietly after Tyler's finally fallen back asleep on the couch between us. "They found similar reports from 7 other cities, all on Halloween, all involving children who went missing and were found in basements or crawl spaces." My stomach drops. "Did they find any creatures?" She shakes her head. "No, but they found those same symbols carved into doors, and every report mentioned children with gray skin and strange teeth. I've been researching those symbols since Halloween night, spending hours combing through folklore websites and obscure academic journals. The closest match I've found is in ancient Scandinavian mythology, markings associated with child-stealing entities that feed on fear and innocence. "I can't stay at my place alone," Katie whispers, her voice cracking. "Not after what happened. Is it okay if we crash here a little longer?" "Of course," I say immediately. "Stay as long as you need. The truth is, I'm grateful for the company. The silver mark on my wrist where the creature grabbed me hasn't faded. Sometimes it pulses with cold that spreads up my arm, like a reminder that whatever touched me left something behind." 3 days later, Tyler starts talking about what happened. We're eating breakfast when he suddenly puts down his spoon and says, "The cold people took me when I was walking home from school." Katie and I freeze, exchanging glances across the table. "They looked like my friends at first," he continues, staring at his cereal. "But when I got close, I could see they weren't breathing right. They didn't blink enough, and their hands were cold, like holding ice." "Did they hurt you?" Katie asks softly. Tyler shakes his head. "They just wanted me to be still. They put something sweet-smelling on a rag over my face, and then I woke up in that dark place. They said they needed me for the changing." "The changing?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. "So they could look like me. They said children are easier to copy because we believe things adults don't." He looks up at me with eyes too old for his face. "They've been doing it forever, taking kids and becoming them." That afternoon, I come back from a grocery run to find Katie standing on our front porch, face white as paper. "Look," she whispers, pointing at our door. Carved into the wood, barely visible unless you're looking for it, is the same symbol that was found on the houses where the missing children were discovered. The neighborhood meeting is held at the community center 3 days later. Nearly every family from our street is there, along with police officers and a representative from the FBI's child abduction unit. They talk about increasing increased patrols for next Halloween, about security systems and neighborhood watch programs. But it's the older man from Maple Street, the street with the full-size candy bars, who catches my attention. He sits silently through most of the meeting, then slowly raises his hand. I've lived on Maple Street for 62 years, he says, voice gravelly with age. And this isn't the first time this has happened. Back in 1987, we lost 5 children on Halloween. They were found 3 days later, just like yours. And it happened in 1952 before that. The room goes quiet. There's a way to protect your homes, he continues. An old ritual my grandmother taught me. Salt and iron at the thresholds, specific words carved into door frames. It's why they skip certain houses. Some people scoff, but I noticed the police officers exchange glances. One of them nods slightly. That night, Tyler shows me his drawings. Dozens of them, all featuring the same creature. Humanoid, but wrong, with elongated limbs and 2 wide mouths filled with needle teeth. In each picture, the creatures stand in perfect circles around groups of children. They call themselves the Still Ones, Tyler says as I flip through the pages. Because they have to practice moving like us. They're not good at it at first. How do you know that? Katie asks from the doorway. Tyler doesn't look up from his drawing. They told me. In my head, they're still talking to me sometimes. The next day, I receive an email from someone named Dr. Eleanor Voss, a folklore specialist from the university. The police have shared my statement with her and she wants to meet. Over coffee at a cafe far from our neighborhood, she shows me centuries-old woodcuts depicting creatures identical to those in Tyler's drawings. They're ancient, she explains, her academic tone at odds with the terror of what she's describing. They feed on children's fear. The more afraid a child is, the more nourishing they are. These entities have been documented across cultures for thousands of years. How do we stop them? I ask, the coffee turning bitter in my mouth. Dr. Voss looks at me with grave eyes. That's the problem. According to every account I've studied, they always come back. Halloween is when the boundary between worlds is thinnest. They use that night to harvest. Harvest, I repeat, the word making me sick. Yes, and based on the mark on your wrist and the symbol on your door. She hesitates. I believe they've marked your family. They'll be back next Halloween, and they'll be coming specifically for Tyler. As I drive home, my phone rings. It's Katie, her voice tight with panic. Josh, get home now. Tyler's school just called. They found him talking to someone on the playground that nobody else could see. And Josh, her voice breaks. He says it looked like one of the Still kids, watching him through the fence. It's been almost a year since that Halloween night, but the memory of those creatures hasn't faded. If anything, it's grown sharper as October approaches again, like a splinter working its way deeper under my skin. The silver mark on my wrist still pulses with cold sometimes, especially at night when the house is quiet. The neighborhood has changed. 4 families moved away in the months following what the news called the Halloween kidnappings. The official story remains that a group of human traffickers targeted our area, but those of us who saw the creatures know better. We don't talk about it openly, but I see the recognition in neighbors' eyes when Halloween decorations start appearing in stores. I'm going trick-or-treating this year, Tyler announces at breakfast, his mouth full of cereal. I'm going as Iron Man. Katie's coffee cup freezes halfway to her lips. Absolutely not. But Mom, no Tyler, we can do anything else. Movie marathon, haunted house at the mall, whatever you want, but not trick-or-treating. Not this year. Tyler's face hardens with that stubborn look I've come to recognize over the 9 months they've been living with me. The cold people are coming back whether I go out or not. Dr. Voss said so. Katie shoots me a look that could melt steel. Dr. Eleanor Voss has become a regular presence in our lives since that first meeting. The folklore expert visits weekly, teaching us protection rituals and explaining what she knows about the entities Tyler calls the cold people. Katie thinks she's feeding Tyler's fear, but I've seen the ancient texts Dr. Voss brings, the historical accounts that match what we experience too perfectly to be coincidence. We need to be prepared, I say carefully. Dr. Voss thinks I know what she thinks, Katie snaps. She thinks my son is marked for some kind of supernatural harvest. She's encouraging his nightmares. They're not nightmares if they're real, Tyler mutters. Later that afternoon, I spread out maps of the neighborhood on my kitchen table. Dr. Voss stands beside me, her gray hair pulled back in a severe bun as she marks houses with a red pen. These were the ones you skipped last year, she says, circling 7 addresses. And in each one, a child was found. They knew which houses to target, I say. How? The entities have been feeding here for generations, she explains. They've mapped this territory carefully. Notice anything about these houses? I study the pattern and suddenly see it. They form a circle around the neighborhood. Precisely. A containment circle. They were creating a perimeter. She taps the map with her pen. And your house is at the center. That night, I'm awakened by Katie's scream. I bolt upright on the couch where I've been sleeping since they moved in, nearly falling as I rush to Tyler's room. Katie stands in the doorway, her hand covering her mouth, eyes wide with horror. What is it? I ask, heart hammering. She wordlessly points at Tyler's shoulder. He's sitting up in bed, looking more annoyed than frightened as he pulls down the collar of his pajama top. There, just below his collarbone, is a symbol identical to the one carved into our front door, but this one seems to be embedded in his skin, like a brand or a birthmark that wasn't there before. It showed up tonight, Tyler says matter-of-factly. It doesn't hurt. Dr. Voss arrives within the hour despite the 2 a.m. timestamp. She examines the mark without touching it, her face grim. It's a claim, she says finally. They've marked him as theirs. What does that mean? Katie demands, her voice cracking. It means they're coming back for him. On Halloween, Dr. Voss looks at me. They're coming back for all of you. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of preparation. We line every window and door with salt and iron filings. Dr. Voss teaches us protective sigils that we paint on the walls with a mixture of sage, ash, and our own blood. The neighbors think we've lost our minds, but a few like the old man from Maple Street nod in approval when they see what we're doing. A community meeting is called 2 weeks before Halloween. This time, nearly 100 people attend, including families from neighboring streets. We need a coordinated effort, I explain, standing before the crowd. Group trick-or-treating with adult supervision. No one goes alone. No one enters houses. And everyone carries protection. I hold up small pouches filled with salt, iron filings, and herbs that Dr. Voss prepared. Most people take the pouches. Some roll their eyes. But enough. Remember the terror of last Halloween to listen. When October 31st finally arrives, an unnatural fog rolls in at sunset, so thick I can barely see the end of my driveway. The temperature drops 20 degrees degrees in an hour. Tyler stands at the window, watching the mist curl against the glass like ghostly fingers. They're here, he whispers, and the mark on his shoulder begins to glow with a faint silver light. It's burning, he says, touching it gingerly, not in pain, but with curiosity. We join the group of protected families at the end of the block. 20 children in costumes, surrounded by 30 adults carrying flashlights and protection pouches. Tyler's Iron Man mask covers his face, but I can see his eyes darting nervously through the eye holes. We move as a group down the street, the children collecting candy at houses, displaying the special orange pumpkin lights. We agreed would signal safe homes. Everything seems normal for the first hour, just another Halloween. If you ignore the unnatural fog and the way it seems to part around our group like water around a stone. Then Tyler freezes mid-step, his candy bucket dropping to the sidewalk. They're watching us, he says, his voice hollow. I follow his gaze and see them children standing at the edge of the fog, not moving, just watching. I count 7 at first, then 12, then more, appearing every second until there must be 30 of them forming a wide circle around our group. Stay together, I call out, my voice steadier than I feel. Remember what Dr. Voss taught us. Don't break the circle. The parents form an outer ring around the children, holding hands as instructed. The protection ritual requires unbroken contact. The entities, the cold people, step closer in perfect synchronization, their movements too fluid, too coordinated to be human. That's him, Tyler whispers, pointing at a boy in a zombie costume. That's the one who pretended to be me. The zombie child tilts its head, a smile spreading across its gray face to reveal needle-sharp teeth. Hello, Tyler, it says, its voice a perfect mimic of my nephew's. We've been waiting for you. You can't have him, Katie says, stepping forward with a mother's fierce protectiveness. The creature's smile widens impossibly. We've been feeding here since before your grandmother's grandmother was born, it says. This territory belongs to us. The children belong to us. Their circle tightens around us despite the protective barrier. I can feel the temperature dropping further, frost forming on the sidewalk beneath our feet. Dr. Voss's voice echoes in my mind. The protection only works if the circle remains unbroken. A small boy in a dinosaur costume suddenly breaks away from his mother, darting toward what looks like his friend standing in the fog. His mother screams, reaching for him, but it's too late. He's broken the circle. The protection shatters like glass, and the cold people surge forward. The entities move like liquid shadows, their bodies flowing rather than stepping across the frost-covered sidewalk. 2 children, a little girl in a fairy costume, and a boy dressed as a superhero, are yanked from the broken circle before any of us can react. Their parents lunge forward, screaming names that get swallowed by the unnatural fog. No! Katie's scream cuts through the chaos as she grabs Tyler, pulling him behind her. The zombie child, the one that had pretended to be Tyler last Halloween, tilts its head at an impossible angle, that too wide smile splitting its face. The claimed one belongs to us, it says, its voice a perfect imitation of Tyler's, but with something else underneath, like multiple voices, speaking in unison. Tyler steps out from behind Katie, his Iron Man mask pushed up to reveal his face. The mark on his shoulder glows silver through his costume, pulsing in rhythm with my own wrist mark. Let them go, he says, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. Take me instead. Tyler, no, I grab for him, but he's already moving forward. The circle of entities goes still, unnaturally still, like a video paused mid-frame. The zombie child studies Tyler with milky eyes that seem to see right through him. A willing sacrifice, it says, sounding almost pleased. The fear tastes sweeter when freely given. The mark on Tyler's shoulder flares brighter, casting silver light across the fog. The entities shift backward slightly, as if surprised by its intensity. Dr. Voss pushes through the panicked crowd, her face pale but determined. The mark is responding to his courage, she whispers to me. It wasn't just a claim, it was a connection. The zombie child extends a gray hand toward Tyler. Come, claimed one. Your fear will feed us for generations. No, I step forward, placing myself between Tyler and the creature. Take me instead. The entity's face contorts with confusion, needle teeth clicking together as it processes my offer. Adults are bitter, tainted. Children are pure. I'm his uncle. We share blood. I hold up my wrist where the silver mark pulses. You marked me too, remember? The creature's head jerks sideways, neck bending at an angle that would snap human vertebrae. It communicates silently with the others. That same telepathic conversation I felt last year, rippling through the air around us. An adult volunteer? Unprecedented. The ritual requires a child, but the connection is strong in this one. The claimed child has power we didn't anticipate. Tyler slips his hand into mine, and suddenly I feel something flow between us. A current of energy that makes the mark on my wrist burn cold. He begins to whisper words I don't recognize. The protective chant. Dr. Voss taught him. Salt and iron, blood and bone, send the hollow ones back home. What walks between must choose a side. What feeds on fear must starve and hide. The zombie child hisses, its skin rippling as if something underneath is trying to break free. Silence him. But Tyler continues, his voice growing stronger with each word. I join him, stumbling through the unfamiliar phrases until I find the rhythm. Dr. Voss's voice joins ours, then Katie's, then others from the crowd, parents and children alike taking up the chant. Salt and iron, blood and bone. The entities shriek, a sound like metal scraping against glass that makes my teeth vibrate. They begin to lose cohesion, their carefully maintained human forms melting at the edges. What walks between must choose a side. The zombie child lunges at Tyler, but the silver light from his mark expands outward, creating a barrier it cannot cross. Its fingers elongate into claws that scratch uselessly against the light. What feeds on fear must starve and hide. As our voices rise in unison, the protective circle we failed to maintain physically reforms as something stronger, a barrier of will and sound that pushes back against the darkness. The silver light spreads from Tyler and me to encompass everyone chanting, connecting us in a network of glowing threads. The entities writhe and twist, their bodies dissolving like smoke and wind. The zombie child, the leader, is the last to go, its face reforming into Tyler's one final time before it shrieks and implodes in a flash of silver light. The 2 captured children drop to the ground, unconscious but breathing. Their parents rush forward, sobbing with relief as they gather them close. In the distance, sirens wail, police responding to multiple 911 calls from neighbors who saw strange lights and heard heard screaming. The fog begins to dissipate, revealing an ordinary suburban street decorated for Halloween. Tyler collapses against me, exhausted. When I check his shoulder, the mark is already fading, leaving behind a small silver scar shaped like the protection symbol Dr. Voss taught us. Did we win? He asks, his voice small and tired. Yes, Dr. Voss says, kneeling beside us. The counter ritual worked. Your willingness to sacrifice yourself, combined with your uncle's intervention, created a powerful barrier. And when the community joined in, she gestures at the dissipating silver light. You've banished them, Tyler. Not forever. Entities like these can never be permanently destroyed, but for generations at least. How many generations? Katie asks, her arms wrapped protectively around Tyler. The folklore suggests at least 3, possibly more, Dr. Voss says. They won't be able to feed here again until the memory of this night has faded from living recollection. The police arrive, finding a group of shaken families and 2 unconscious children who wake up disoriented but unharmed. The official report will mention mass hysteria, possibly hallucinogenic drugs and Halloween candy, but those of us who were there know the truth. 3 days later, the mark on my wrist has faded to match the scar on Tyler's shoulder. He's sleeping through the night again, the nightmares replaced by ordinary dreams. Katie finds me on the back porch, watching Tyler play in the yard with neighborhood kids whose parents once looked at him with suspicion, but now treat him like a hero. I never properly thanked you, she says, sitting beside me, for saving him. Twice now. He saved himself, I reply. He was braver than any of us. She smiles, watching her son laugh as he chases a friend around the swing set. Still, I'm glad you were there. Both times. Tyler looks up and waves at us, his face bright with an ordinary childhood joy that seemed impossible just a week ago. The silver scar on his shoulder catches the sunlight as he moves, a reminder of what we faced and overcame. We still check Halloween identities carefully every year. We still line our doors with salt and iron when October approaches. Some habits are worth keeping, especially when you've seen what waits in the spaces between worlds. But the cold people won't be back, not in our lifetime. Tyler made sure of that when he faced his fear and chose courage instead. And if they do return someday, generations from now, I hope someone remembers the chant that sends them back into darkness where they belong. Salt and iron, blood and bone, what walks between must choose a side. What feeds on fear must starve and hide.